Well, La Liga is back, and one another familiar face in La Liga is back. Jose Mourinho plays his first La Liga match after what, 4,000 plus days. And before I talk about the first Real Madrid match of the season, let me be very clear about something. I'm not a Real Madrid expert. I do not specialize on Real Madrid, and I do not have the maximum amount of information and resources available when it comes to Real Madrid. So, all the Real Madrid reviews I'll be making throughout this entire season will be purely from a rivals perspective, but trying to stay as objective and neutral as possible. But definitely some of the rival biases will start to chip in some point in time, so advance apology for that. But in most of the cases, what I'll try to do is try to give you a perspective of how I have watched the match being a Barcelona fan, and how I think this has an impact on the overall season. Now, starting off, I have to clearly specify two things: that Jose Mourinho has a very there is absolutely no hiding behind it. There is absolutely no putting it in any other way. This Real Madrid team has serious depth and absolutely no excuses when it comes to having forwards, having options, having alternatives, and having a striker who can come off the bench and literally win the game for you. So, all in all, what Jose Mourinho really needs to understand is that if the season goes wrong in any form or shape, he has very little excuses. And the second part is the stubbornness that Real Madrid has shown when it comes to buying a proper replacement for Modric, Casemiro, and Cruz for almost over 3 to 4 seasons, and just being adamant, being stubborn, and just in general not paying attention to the far cry that is in the midfield, that is still pretty visible. It's out there for everyone to see, and I'll talk about it more about it in this video. But clearly, there's 2 points: that this Real Madrid squad has some serious depth, and two, the midfield problem of Real Madrid is still far from being solved. And let's talk about it. So my name is Azim, and this is Talking Tiki Taka, and you are watching my feedback and review on the first game of La Liga for Real Madrid. Now, before I get into the details of the match, there is one thing that we all need to understand: is that this season is absolute do or die, and there is absolutely very little margin for error when it comes to just picking up points and failing to convert a match like today's into 3 points. And Real Madrid, in the first assignment, Jose Mourinho in his first assignment in his comeback, has done exactly that. Now, this was a very touch and go kind of a situation, and I do not see a lot of reaction from the Real Madrid communities that are very positive. And there is this fear that what if it's a continuity of the last 2 seasons, and what if eventually it turns out like another Ancelotti or Xavi Alonso case, and Real Madrid eventually has to give the season for the remainder, the half of the season, to someone like Arbeloa. This is a situation that I think all the Real Madrid fraternity will try to avoid the most. And I'm not saying on the basis of just one single match this is going to happen. This is something that is literally on the stake, and this is going to be a huge burden for Real Madrid and Jose Mourinho. Now, some of the pointers that I have to talk about into this game is the first one is the most obvious one. Is Real Madrid's midfield somewhat sorted? And the answer to that is, at least from my side, absolutely no. Now, a lot of Real Madrid fans, a lot of Real Madrid communities might fight over the fact that they didn't really need Rodri. Yes, Barcelona eventually got Rodri and they couldn't care less about it, but I think they should care a great deal about it, because one thing is being sort of confident, or let's say putting trust on the players that you have, and another thing is being just downright adamant about something that clearly at this point in time requires solving. Now, if you think Tchouaméni or Camavinga is going to be the solution, and they are going to fill in the gap that they have been failing to do so for over last 2-3 seasons, magically something is not going to change. Magically, Jose Mourinho is not just going to turn Tchouaméni and Camavinga into prime Cruz and Casemiro. That's just not going to happen. And if that doesn't happen, if your answer to that problem is Bernardo Silva, then based on what I have seen in the preseason and based on what I have seen tonight, I do not think this is going to pay a lot of dividend for Real Madrid, and this is going to cause some serious problems as the season goes along. Now, one another reason why I feel as the season goes along, they will have a very big issue maintaining the minutes for Bellingham. Now, clearly, Bellingham has been the best player on the field tonight, and under this Jose Mourinho system, it is very much possible that while the Vini Mbappe, I wouldn't like to say conflict, but this just the pair not syncing and working together, and that eventually will put a lot of pressure on Bellingham, already piling up the pressure as being the sole midfielder who is reliant, and so basically the whole Madrid team will be looking up to him in order to sort things out in the midfield. And in that situation, the kind of shift that I have seen Bellingham put tonight, and the kind of shift just in general this Madrid team will require, if they do not bring about a good replacement, a good support, a good alternative for Bellingham, this is going to be disastrous of a season for Real Madrid, and that is pretty much certain, because you cannot build a game up for Mbappe, Vinicius, Diamonde, SP if you do not have a midfield. And Arda Güler seems like a player who plays really well, but in spells and in certain games and in pressure situations, Arda Güler almost always breaks. And this is one of the biggest reasons why Arda Güler hasn't turned into the player that everyone expected him to. I am a huge fan of Arda Güler. If you have been following me for a decent amount of time, you already know that I have defended him. I have spoken extremely highly of him, and I feel Arda Güler could really have been more tried out and more, let's say, explored. But in the previous manager's time, he has hardly been given the opportunity to do so. So I definitely think Jose Mourinho is going to utilize him more than the previous managers. But it's not going to play out the way Arda Güler wants it to be every time, and it's going to be very difficult to manage situations when Real Madrid is competing at the toppest, let's say, levels in the Champions League and in the other three domestic competitions. So it is a very difficult job for Bellingham, and you can't really come to a conclusive statement based on the examples of one single match. But I think Diamonde will not be an instant just fit in like a glove kind of player. I think Real Madrid fans need to be a bit patient with him. He will need a bit more time getting into the thick of things. And when you already have a prolific winger like Vinicius, which I'll get into, I need to dissect his game absolutely. And definitely when you have a name like Mbappe up front sharing the same space almost with you, then it will require some time to get used to. And just coming from Leipzig, where the football, the system, the demands, and the overall expectation, and just in general the stakes and levels are significantly more different. So Diamonde is someone I don't think will just immediately start hitting. I think it will require 5 to 10 match days. After that, maybe we will be able to start seeing Diamonde flourish, which I do not really want to see, but I have high hopes for the kid. I wish him well. Seems like a decent kid. So let's see how it goes. But now we really have to talk about Vinicius Junior, because what kind of performance we really saw tonight, it kind of defies all law, because the kind of player that we saw in the World Cup didn't really arrive neither in the preseason nor in the official La Liga starter. So what Vinicius looks like have been suffering from is definitely he lost a bit of pace, and he lost a lot of agility in his feet. He looks heavier, he looks bulkier, he doesn't look as fast as he used to do. Yes, if you give him open spaces behind the line, he will definitely run at you, he will cut back, he will dribble, he will take that shot. But just in general, the kind of flair and the spark that you used to see from Vinicius Junior, that is absolutely just not there. Now, early days, the season just started. They have just come back from a vacation, playing a very emotionally draining World Cup. All those factors eventually play in. But if you have to talk about Vinicius Junior and the kind of drama that sort of we saw before the season started, you would expect Vinicius Junior to do at least a little bit more in terms of proving it on the ground and not just demanding higher wages. Now, all the better for us as Barca fans if they do not click, but I think the first match for all Madrid fans will be more questions than getting answers to the problems that they had in the last couple of seasons. And it is going to be a long process, and it's just not going to be an overnight success for Jose Mourinho, because the football that Jose Mourinho used to play back in the 2010s and 2011s and 12s has drastically evolved. The situation in the overall world football power chart, power index has changed. There will be more dynamic teams, and Let's not forget one another thing, that Jose Mourinho has not managed a top team for a long period of time and haven't competed in the highest of levels for a long period of time with a contender. And when you talk about Real Madrid, they are definitely a contender for the Liga, the contender for the Champions League, contender for all the domestic leagues, and they definitely will have to play in every single competition with this depth of squad that they have, and they have to make the maximum utilization out of it. But the question remains that one single area that Real Madrid has been so adamant in not replacing or not putting attention to, or at least publicly addressing it, the midfield, is eventually the answer to the question that I would be trying to find out throughout this entirety of the season. And I hope Real Madrid doesn't find that answer, because if the midfield doesn't work for Real Madrid, then it doesn't really matter if you buy the most talented of forwards and someone like SP who can come on and give you a game out of absolutely nowhere. But eventually, when push will come to shove, and when you have to really run at 100 miles an hour without any sort of margin for error, then the airbags won't save you. The midfield will. And let's see how Real Madrid does in the next games, and do stick around for my team playing tomorrow. See you in the next video. Till then, and as always, Visca el Barça.